Hey everyone, welcome to the Uncapped podcast. I'm your host, Chris Sands, and today we're joined by Russ Tinsley, the founder, all the way from it's in Hampton Roads, right?
Yeah, Hampton Roads, Virginia.
Hampton Roads, Virginia. He's the founder of Oozlefinch Blending, and I didn't
Beers.
write the whole Beers and Blending. I just wrote Oozlefinch because I love that name so much. I forgot that there's a whole second half of the name.
That's I mean, honestly, that's what we go by Oozlefinch. So
So I think that's where we have to start.
okay.
What is Oozlefinch? Where did the name Oozlefinch come from, and why the name Oozlefinch?
So Oozlefinch is I mean, basically, we are on a decommissioned Army fort. Back in 2014, they decommissioned Fort Monroe from an Army base to a national estate park. We ended up grabbing a spot out here. If you look at it, it's considered a peninsula, but it's literally a small tract of land on the far side of the island that kind of connects it to Hampton. It looks more like a little island in the middle of the Chesapeake Bay, and right at the mouth of where the York River and the James River meet. But the fort used to be the last stand. If you got past Fort Monroe, you had a free shot to DC. And so Fort Monroe was back in the day kind of the last point of protection for DC. So you had a lot of armaments and stuff like that on the fort, inside the fort. And it literally is a 360-degree fort with a moat all the way around it. There's some
Nice.
there's some land that's like outlaying outside of the fort, which is where the brewery sits on the island. But the place is so rich in history, and that's really what drew me to grabbing up the spot. And not only that, it's the only place in Hampton Roads that you drive onto the island, and it's out of the to everything's protected. So sorry, my son is running back and forth to get Doritos. Here, take that with you.
Sorry. I mean, I'm at constant risk of one of two children running through that door right there, so I don't care.
He grew up here pretty much, so he has right to everything here.
It's his place.
Yeah, 100%.
I watched the comedian last night. Sorry to interrupt your story, but it was just so funny where he's a dad, and a lot of his jokes had to do with being a dad, and one of them was talking about like when he was a kid. He's like, can you imagine growing up in an age when the children aren't in charge?
Yeah, right.
No, so my kids are pretty much in charge.
Yeah, are too. I mean, I love it though. It's he's been a lot of fun, and I mean, we'll probably get to this later, but he has literally named a majority of our beers just since he was a little kid and first started talking. I was keeping notes of all the stupid stuff he said.
That's awesome.
So we a lot of our beers are named after stuff that he had said. Now he's in school and he's talking right, and not really as much fun to listen to, but
not nearly as much inspiration.
Yeah, so he's got a little brother that's 1.5, and so he's on the cusp of being able to fill those slots for the next couple of years.
He'll take over the beer naming duties.
Yeah, man. I mean, it was funny when we have some really cool names, and a lot of the stuff that we still do. Party Dinosaur was his. Let's see, he did Feel So Better is one that we've done recently that's his. He did Dude Blanket, which is an IPA that we make, and he has a little turtle blanket that he calls his Dude Blanket. And so there's a bunch of things in there. Love You Buddy, and some of these ones that mean more to him and I, and then other ones that are just hilarious, and so we've reused them. But so yeah.
So before I interrupted you, were talking about the location.
Yeah, the location, it's really just rich in history. a lot of folks don't know this, but the first African Americans, or the first Africans that were brought against their will to this country as slaves, landed on the beach of this small island. And then, you know,
do you know by who?
You know, I not off the top of my head.
Pirates.
Oh, really?
Yes. I learned. So there's this guy I know that I met through craft beer. He's a huge craft beer fan too. Him and his wife, his wife has a fairly popular Instagram account, Hoppy Black Lady, I think is and he is a professor at a university up here, and he's really into pirate history. And he taught me that the first slaves were brought to the United States, and they were forced to purchase them, because basically when a pirate would show up in a port, you bought whatever they had to offer, or you would be their next victim.
Yeah, that's crazy. I do know there is a lot of pirate history here too. Like there's some ties to Blackbeard and all that here locally. But yeah, man, this little small tract of land that we sit on wasn't only the place where you know, slaves where Africans were enslaved and considered slaves for the first time in our country's history, but it's also the same place that during the Civil War there were 3 African men that escaped from a Confederate base across the river at Sewell's Point and floated over to Fort Monroe on a makeshift raft. You know, and then basically the South went to the Union general here and said, you know, by federal law, you have to give us our property back. And the general basically replied, you know, you succeeded from the Union. You're no longer bound by our laws. And we're not bound to do anything for you. And they're considered contraband of war. And, you know, in no way was it still easy for you know, African Americans back then, but it started the whole movement of the Underground Railroad ending at Fort Monroe. And by the time the war ended, there were 10,000 freed slaves here in Monroe. Yeah. And then literally, you know, the South came in and burned Hampton. And a lot of the people that lived in Hampton went to Richmond and just leaving these foundations of homes. And so these freed slaves were they went out and built houses on all the foundations and created the first what we know of as a Black community in the country outside the gates of where we are. And so just the fact that those 2 significant, one very horrible, one still horrible, but a start to you know, a cool finish of equality and freedom. I wouldn't really say much equality. That's a different conversation. You know, the freedom itself is it's pretty cool that it happened you know, on this itty bitty small island. But
it's like being in Frederick. It's that same kind of thing. Like the stories that you find about all these little areas are just fascinating. The things that happened back then.
Yeah, and I honestly, my teachers from high school would smack me for even saying this now, but I geek out on history, and I wish I knew that when I was younger.
I'm really hoping that story I told was accurate, because I was told that while we had been drinking, and it was a while ago. So if any of that was wrong, I apologize, and I feel like I need to just have him on my podcast to talk about pirates and drinking, because
that's awesome. I have no idea, honestly. I just know that the first ship had landed here on Fort Monroe, and the first enslaved people were brought on and sold into slavery here.
So too bad you're not within the moat, though. That would be pretty damn cool to have a brewery that's protected by a moat.
Yeah. So honestly, the original space is inside the casemate walls, which gets back to our original point. I got way off topic, but you know, the original space that we were going to get is within the casemate walls. And basically the old cannons used to sit inside these fortified walls with these little like cubby holes, you know, that you see on movies and stuff. I mean, it's really, that's what it was. And so the cannons would shoot out those holes And when, they moved into, World War I, and all the weaponry that they were using inside the casemate walls were kind of obsolete, they replaced it with bigger guns that they put on top of the moat. And so it opened up all the casemate spaces for renovation and other stuff. And so they used it for base housing. And then in the space that we were originally looking at purchasing and fixing up for the brewery, there was the officers club was in there. And so the more we researched it, we found out about this, kind of folklore tale from Fort Monroe history. And, in early 1900s, really early 1900s, like 1905, there was an officer drinking at the club there in the casemate, went outside, saw this bird. He said, the bird had a long neck, red bloodshot eyes, no eyelids, flew backwards, feet spanning into its wings, no feathers, and, flew at Mach speeds. And so there's all this, story behind it. And it literally went from a joke to where the club adopted it as a mascot, because one of the officers' wives found a little statue in town that looked like it. And so they put it in a glass case behind the bar, and then it went from a mascot to ultimately turned into a secret society called the Order of the Oozlefinch. And and so they were committed to three things in life. There's a lot of fun stories and stuff that go with this, but they were committed to drinking, gambling, and roasting each other, which we thought was awesome. And then they had their own
gentleman's club.
Yeah. They had their own little crest, and on the crest underneath in Latin, translated, it says, "What the hell do we care?" And so, a lot of that is just kind of, it fits the way that we approach beer and the way that we approach community.
Is there still an Order of the Oozlefinch, or is that long?
Funny thing. Yeah. So it's not called the Order of the Oozlefinch anymore. When the school that was here, the artillery school, left Fort Monroe, it took the order with it to Texas, and it was still surviving there. When it went from Texas to California, I think is where everything kind of went from an order to now. The Oozlefinch is still the mascot of the Army Artillery. And so we'll have Army Artillery folks all the time hit up our page and, come in to see us. I had an invite a couple years ago to a dine-in, which no civilians ever get to go to. And my wife and I got to go and watch all the traditions. And, there was just really cool moments where, the Army guys were pouring an alcohol that was made from each place that an Army artilleryman had ever served. And so, there was like 40 something bottles of alcohol going into this punch bowl. And then they called me up and let me top it off with one of our beers. And I was like, man, it was a killer moment.
That's cool.
It's still the Army Artillery mascot. A lot of folks, Army Artillerymen, are obsessed with it. And, but it doesn't have the same secret society type, hype that it did when it was here on Fort Monroe.
Have you ever met someone that was a member of the Order of the Oozlefinch?
I haven't, but we've gotten, like people's sons or daughters, when their parents die, will bring over stuff and, have certificates that say, I've got one hanging on the wall over there that somebody brought in and gave to us, but it's certificates from their grandfathers or dads that served and were actually inducted into the order as a Oozlefinchling is what they used to call it. So,
that's really cool.
Yeah, we have a few of those that people have brought us, but I don't think it's as big of a deal as it used to be. Even on the base here, there's a headquarters building that was built in like 1920 or 30, and there are little Oozlefinches hidden in the ironworks on the front of the building. And so it was everywhere out here back in the early to mid 1900s.
That's hilarious. Well, that's a even better story than what I was expecting.
Yeah, I know. Right?
I mean, I feel like with the name, it had to be good, but that it delivered and even more.
100%. 100%. And nobody had trademarks on it or copyrights. And so that made me even happier to figure that out.
Yeah.
So I got that one. And, with as many breweries that were popping up around the time that we opened up, it was like, you're no chance grabbing a name that somebody else didn't already have. So we were pretty stoked.
We're going to take a real quick sponsor break.
Sounds
and then when we come back, we covered the name. So I think we should cover what you were doing before Oozlefinch and what got you to the point where you wanted to open a brewery. So we will be right back.
If you haven't heard about our beer dinners, well, now you have. Typically, the last Tuesday of each month, we partner with a local brewery and craft an exclusive 5-course dinner. Each course is thoughtfully paired with some of the finest craft beer available. You'll meet the brewery, enjoy memorable pairings and service, and have a damn good time. Like us on Facebook to stay in the know when tickets become available, because they will sell out quick.
Idiom Brewing Company proudly offers a delicious variety of beers to satisfy the most discerning tastes. Best known for their wide array of IPAs, delicious fruited sours, and robust porters and stouts, Idiom prides themselves on continuing to innovate, utilizing new and experimental hops, local ingredients, and unique flavor profiles. Idiom has a simple goal in mind: to bring people from all walks of life together to enjoy themselves and each other. Idiom Brewing Company is located in downtown Frederick, just south of the intersection of East Street and East Patrick Street, with ample seating and directly on Carroll Creek. What year did Oozlefinch open?
We officially opened our doors in September of 2016.
So what were you doing leading up to founding Oozlefinch?
I was, I at the time was doing undercover narcotics for the city of Newport News.
That probably was a stressful job.
It was booming and stressful, but honestly, I loved it, man. I had a lot of fun. The guys and girls that I worked with were the best, cops, hands down, I'd ever worked with. A small unit. We had maybe 16 people in our office out of a department. I think they had, I don't know if it was like 500 people or something like that at the time. And Newport News is a pretty big city, and there's a lot going on. And so, to kind of have an opportunity to do some cool stuff like that. And, I did everything from buying drugs to prostitution stuff to, bigger investigations and I ended my career with them leading the human trafficking team, and got to help write the human trafficking bill of 2014 in Richmond for Virginia, which was really cool to do. I never got to use the law ever because I quit on July 1st, the day it day it started. But I had a lot of fun in that career, and it was exciting. The people are amazing that I worked with, and it was just nonstop fun all the time.
Owning a brewery is probably a lot safer, I'm guessing.
That's the reason I quit.
Your wife is probably a lot happier with your new career.
100%. I went through a situation there, a shooting. I mean, without getting into too much detail, it was just not good. And I was hit, and my wife and I went through that whole thing together, and immediately decided, when you're in a job like that, you're having so much fun, and it just is a nonstop adrenaline rush every day. And you don't really think about stuff like that. Or when you do, you're like, it'll never happen to me. And then when it happened to me, I was like, it's not worth it to me.
This sucks.
Yeah. So, the adrenaline was cool while it lasted, but in the heat of the moment, when things got real, it was, I had to bow out because I was not about that life.
Yeah, I got a paper cut last week on my finger, so I can imagine.
Horrible. It's horrible.
So that there's a common theme in a lot of people who have founded breweries. So I guess I was at a larger risk of my dog bursting through the door instead of a kid.
Or a creep, but I was wondering what was going to happen.
It's the dog is upset because all the women of the house left and they're her favorite. So now she's going to be upset. Like there's a lot of people that worked in IT, a lot of engineers, a lot of people in finance. I don't think I've ever interviewed someone that was an undercover narcotics officer before.
Yeah, it was fun, man. I mean, I was homebrewing at the time, and I had always planned on doing a brewery eventually. I just didn't plan on doing it till I retired. And then, like I said, when things got real, we pulled the trigger and did it. And it was a good thing we did because everything got so oversaturated really quick. I think, it's hard. It would be a lot harder coming into the game now than.
Yeah, you said 2016?
Yeah.
That was, I would say that, that's probably right about the cutoff where like you could survive if you opened after then, but it's a lot more difficult to grow and.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, you really needed to establish yourself probably before then. I mean, 2016 and 2017 was nothing but like nonstop visits from people who wanted to own breweries and, me kind of walking them through what I went through and how we did it and, what was good for us. And, but I'd have to say, nobody's come by here and, the last year or so asking for advice. I think everybody, COVID put his plans on hold. So, but it definitely has slowed down quite a bit.
So, you wanted to preserve your life.
100%.
And you, so had you been home brewing for quite some time during that time, or was it a semi-new hobby?
It was fairly new at the time. I had started home brewing probably in 2009 after I got married. And, it was one of those things. She bought me a kit for Christmas, our first Christmas together. She got me one of those Mr. Beer kits, which I still have 4 of those beers the first time I ever made it. And that was in 2009. And then within a year, man, I was hooked and went up to Dogfish Head, took a class that they had there for home brewing, and then just never really looked back after that. I ordered more expensive equipment than I should have ordered for my house. And then it just kind of snowballed from there. And then when everything happened at the police department, it was one of those things of, what are we going to do? And my wife asked me, and I said, well, I've always wanted to own a business. I always knew that was something I was going to do eventually. I'd read up a lot of books on it and educated myself. And so, she's like, well, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, everything that I've read, it says you got to be passionate about what you do. And she was like, what are you passionate about? And I said, police work, which I'm not doing anymore, and beer. And she was like, let's do beer. And that was it. And we never looked back from that moment on. So
that's awesome.
That was kind of how it started.
How was that first beer you made?
Horrible.
Good. I don't trust anyone that tells me the first one was good. Unless like they made it with a bunch of friends or like a head brewer friend of theirs who brewed with them.
Yeah, I would never believe it ever. And most people are doing extract too. So like I did that first beer with the Mr. Beer, which was extract. And I'm like, I'm going to jump straight into whole grain just so I want to learn it and I want to mess it up and just do it until we figure it out. And so, but I didn't make a good beer for probably 9 months or so.
Well, thankfully you were persistent and didn't.
The first real all grain batch I made, and I had 10 gallons of it, man. And it was supposed to be a really hoppy West Coast. And that was what was in at the time. And so, of course, everybody's trying to do some type of palate wreck or something or another back then. And so I did one, and my buddies from the police department, from the unit, came over, and we were drinking it, and we were literally chugging it so we could get it down. But then after like 3 or 4, it didn't matter anymore, and we got slammed off of it. But they nicknamed it doo-doo water, and so when I left the police department, still to this day, one of the guys that was there will still refer to all the beer that I make as doo-doo water.
That's hilarious. I hope he doesn't leave that in like Untapped reviews.
Probably would, honestly. It'd be funny. It'd be worth it.
Do you think that style is making a comeback?
West Coast?
Yeah.
I think
it seems to be like slowly.
I think brewers want it to make a comeback.
Yeah, I want it to come back.
I can still enjoy it, but dude, I'm telling you, I think I do.
The candy and fruit's what everyone wants.
Hazy's losing its appeal, but it's still the go-to for a lot of folks because it's approachable. I think West Coast old school people who got into beer and started loving beer, when all of us did, when hoppy was king, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I could still drink one and appreciate it for sure, but I honestly, the fruit bomb, everything is more up my alley. And what I fell in love with recently, and I didn't expect it, is everybody was going after the lager game for the last year or two, and I was like, man, I can't get on board with that. There's just not enough going on. But this last year, Rachel, who's my head brewer, started making lagers, and I gave her a tank to like just do lagers, and she's killing it, man. And honestly, that's about a majority of what I drink now is lagers, which I never would have said, a year ago.
So, I would say the same thing. About a year ago, I would mock brewers and brewery owners for trying to make lagers a thing again. Like, I understand you want to drink them, but no one cares. And then that's mainly what I drink now too. Like, I post a lot of pretty pictures of hazy IPAs and heavily fruited sours, but if I'm just grabbing a beer to drink, it's a lager. And thank God so many breweries like yourself have started making really, really good lagers.
Well, that's what honestly, Rachel, that's her thing. She's passionate about lagers. She's passionate about the barrel sour program that we have. And she loves those two things. I'm more passionate about adjunct everything, see how much flavor we can push into some sours. And, honestly, if we could get away with it, just doing sours, I would just do sours here, but it's in-house, especially with our market is fairly new to sours, and we're slowly starting to bring on more and more clientele locally over the course of the last 2 years that enjoy it. But for us, that's where our heart is. And but Rachel, her heart is in her lagers, man, and she got me hooked on them now. So which I never would have ever said, but
does it pain you?
I don't ever tell her that often though, because they literally will look at me stupid if I'm drinking a lager. Just because I always said no, we're not doing it.
So I brewed with a local brewery today. We did a collab, 123 IBU West Coast today.
Gosh.
He was like, how bitter do you want it to be? I was like, I don't want to taste anything afterwards.
I'd be interested to see how I'd react to something like that after all these years, because I can't say that I've had anything really, really bitter in quite a long time. Even the West Coast, like every once in a while, Rachel will do one. She likes them a lot. So, we'll do one for in-house and just put it on tap. But I would say, we usually try and stick to most of the tropical hops. And so we're not going for like, that pine tar or grassy.
Yeah, we did Simcoe, Mosaic, and I can't remember what the third hop was now. Crap. But yeah, it's good. It's going to be a palate wrecker.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I've banned Cascade from our brewery, so we're not allowed to use it ever again. I just can't stand that hop. I mean, it is everything that was that whole entire craze, but we bought so much of it the first year we were open. I had a brewer. He only worked for me for a couple months, but he had, contracted for 2 or 3 years of what he thought we would need. And then when he and I kind of split ways, I was stuck with this hop contract that I had enough Cascade hops contracted to literally provide to every brewery in the state of Virginia for a year. And so we were buying them and putting them in beer just because we had to get rid of them. And, and then I finally got to the point where I'm like, I can't take this as a bittering hop. I can't take it as we're not doing anything else with it. And I said, you can give them away or go put them in the trash, but we're never using them ever again.
It is banned from the kettle.
Yeah. And then the brewer at the time, who he's now in New Mexico working out there, but one day I was tasting one of the beers he had made, and I was like, "This has Cascade in it." You can see his eyes get real big, and I'm like, "Oh, I hate Cascade." It's the absolute worst. But I know a lot of West Coast folks will tell me I'm crazy, but I can't do it, man.
When you first opened, did you do the brewing, or did you hire someone to brew right away?
I thought I could do the brewing, and so the plan was for me to do it, and I was doing it at home. And then, the minute I started looking at equipment, I realized how far out of my league I was, and switched plans real quick. So I hired a guy locally that had some professional experience locally. That relationship quickly we figured out was we just weren't eye to eye on where we wanted things to be, and so he moved on, and then we've stuck with professional brewers the whole time. Rachel, who's in charge now, she's a chemist by trade, and she was 21, I think 22 when she started working here. I had her do bartending first in order to get in the brewery, just to show me she wanted it, and she did. And man, she was great behind the bar. She came in and started doing lab stuff for us, and she was amazing there. And then she ended up making it to assistant brewer. And then when our last brewer moved to New Mexico, she took over, and she's been doing it for the better part of almost 2 years now, probably, where she's been kind of doing a lot of the brewing. She took over, but she took over as head brewer, I guess, a year and 3 months ago, I think, and really honestly kind of changed the direction we were going with a lot of our beers. We were still sour focused, but we weren't, we more made a name on just doing weird adjuncts back then. And so I think with her, we've really kind of focused in on what I wanted as far as what I wanted in a beer. And I wanted heavily fruited. I wanted, so thick you can see the film on your glass type. And so she's slowly, helped mold us to get to that place. And, she still does really well balanced sours and a couple of the series that she does, but she also absolutely kills it when it comes to doing the heavily fruited stuff and weird adjuncts. I mean, we spent all morning today trying to make an ice cream banana float sour, or banana not banana float, a banana whatever you call it.
Split.
Yeah, banana split sundae sour. And so we spent all morning in there with thousands of ice cream cones, a crud ton of maraschino cherries, more Hershey's chocolate than I've ever seen in one place at one time. And we're waiting on the banana to arrive, which was supposed to be here 30 minutes ago. So I'm hoping it's here. And that's going straight in. So they've been in there messing with that all day. And, but she kills it. So
let's take one more quick sponsor break, and then we get back. We can talk about kind of guess like the technical details and things of the brewery and friends with benefits.
Yeah, man.
So we'll be right back. There are many reasons why I've chosen District East for where I purchase beer. I love the flexibility of being able to make a custom 6-pack or take home a crowler from one of the 8 beers on tap. Their friendly and knowledgeable staff do an amazing job at keeping a diverse selection on hand. You can even purchase artwork from the monthly featured artist. District East is located on Northeast Street in Frederick, in the same shopping center as Family Mill and Rockwell Brewery. You can find today's beer lists on the District East Facebook page or at www.districteast.beer. To all you craft breweries, wineries, and distilleries out there, listen up. Atlantic Custom Solutions is the real deal in providing you branded growlers, ceramics, glassware, and accessories like koozies, coasters, and keychains. Their high-definition digital printing, organic ink, and low-fire process ensures your brand is printed in ultra-high definition, giving you a one-up on the competition. We've used Atlantic Custom Solutions for Uncapped branded glassware and couldn't be happier with it. Check them out. Visit www.brandmybeverage.com or give them a call at 434-286-4500 to learn more about how they can help you brand your business. Uncapped is brought to you with support from McClintock Distilling, Maryland's first and only organic certified distillery. They are well known for their award-winning gin and are rapidly growing a name for themselves for their Matchstick Bourbon and Bootjack Rye Whiskey that have both won double gold at international spirits competitions. You can visit them in historic downtown Frederick along Carroll Creek for tours and tastings. Go to McClintockDistilling.com for more information. So let's start with what size brew house do you have?
So we have a 15-barrel brew house. We have 6 30-barrel fermenters. We have 2 30-barrel bright tanks, and then we have 6 8-barrel small batch tanks that we keep. 2 of them are set aside for barrel room projects, blending and fruiting and stuff like that. And then the other 4 are set aside for in-house beers, hazies, and anything like that. We, the only hazy that we can and put in cans and send out is our Smashmallow series, which is like a marshmallow milkshake style fruited hazy. And the rest of them we only do on site just because they don't age out well. So if you get, a distributor buys it and they don't understand what they're getting and it's not hitting the shelf for 30 days, it's just not going to be as good of an impression on folks as you would get straight from the brewery. So we keep those for in-house only. So we do smaller batches of those just to kind of try and keep them on tap. But, normally we either have one or we're out just because they go so fast.
Oh, sorry, I got distracted by your website.
No worries.
Did you start out at 15 barrels or did you upgrade to that?
No, we started out at it, yeah, which was way, way more than we ever needed. I'm glad we did it now because we were able to grow into it.
Yeah.
But the first year we were open, I think we probably were only at like half capacity. So now we're running full capacity. We added 2 extra 30 barrels. We could use quite a few more. So, we just added 2 back in October. And so, we just pretty much got to where we're pacing ourselves with the new fermenters. And so we probably won't add another 2 until, I don't know, we may have that conversation again this fall and see if it's worth, growing significantly more than 2 or 3 or whatever. But yeah, we 4 of them are sour tanks. We do live sours in our tanks. Obviously we just got the pasteurizer, so that changes things for us. So whatever you get coming out of the tanks and into cans will be pasteurized and will be beer that's no longer living bacteria or yeast in the can. But before we were doing straight sour, we had different equipment, different hoses, different canning, different everything for our sour and clean side of the house. And so with the pasteurizer now, we're kind of getting to the point to where we can combine everything post pasteurizer. And so that's what we're working on now is one, testing the pasteurizer to make sure it actually is killing everything, and we don't have to worry about re-fermentation, or we don't have to worry about bacteria mucking up the lines down line. But so far it's been great.
Do you have a lab there where you're doing cell counts and everything for quality control? And
yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. And with us having live sour and not doing kettle sours, we have a pretty extensive lab compared to breweries our size. I think, we have the Invisible Sentinel which is a PCR machine. Rachel does ATP tests constantly on all the equipment and on all the beers that come out. And she's doing anything and everything to try and make sure that we're not that all the beers are not contaminated. But the PCR machine is pretty great. ATP is really helpful. she also plates everything and makes sure that, just as a backup, it takes 3 days to really get a lot of those results back. But we always do it just to make sure that we don't have anything that is gonna spoil or continue, fermenting our beer out. But
so are even your like heavily adjuncted sours aren't kettle sours?
no, not at all.
That
No.
makes you unique, or
Yeah,
fairly unique.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, we're able, because of that, we're able to really get the pH down quite a bit. We most of our pHs in our sours range from, usually around 3.1, 3.2. A lot of the breweries that we know and they're shooting for like 3.4, 3.5. But I love the pucker. I love the like enamel ripping type sour, and so that's what we do. And we had one beer we got down to 2.9 before, which was
my goodness.
Awesome. Yeah.
Was that drinkable though? Like, I feel like,
surprisingly it was. I never even I thought that it would have been less acidic than some of the other ones that we have, but it was just the combination of fruit and all the other adjuncts they had in there kind of evened it out. But majority of ours we shoot for like 3.1, 3.2, and I think now that we have the pasteurizer, we're going to start messing around with we can mess around when we want to pull the beer and run adjuncts or not. And so it's just easier to control that whole thing. Usually if you do the kettle sour, you stop it whenever you want it to stop, but you throw it in a tank and she's going until you pull her out. So, or until you put her through the pasteurizer. So, or until it stalls, which normally is what we were going with. And we normally stalled around 3.1 average probably.
So I think that's a great segue into your sour festival.
Yeah, so we absolutely love sours. Honestly, that's it's where my heart is. It's where we all sat down as a team collectively a few years ago and said, where are we going to put our effort, and how are we going to do this? When we were picking kind of a direction we wanted to go, and everybody agreed sours are where we needed to put our energy, which at the time nobody was doing. And for us, it was, people were doing it, but it was like few and far between. When you come here, we have 7 or 8 sours on tap at all times. And so all that said, we really want to just highlight and focus some of the best sour breweries that we know, and not only folks that we know personally, but folks that we think are just absolutely destroying it in the sour game. And I know there's a lot of others out there that we miss, but we're doing the Friends with Benefits on May 22nd. We invited probably close to 40 breweries out to do that. Everybody's bringing sour beers, and that's it, except for Schilling. We're going to have Schilling's going to set up a lager tent for folks that may not understand what sour is when they get here. So
can I set up a table selling Tums?
Yeah, man, come on, bring it.
Because I feel like there's going to be a bunch of old people like me that by the end of it are going to have some serious heartburn.
Oh, dude. Honestly, yeah, I'm with you there. But yeah, we've got 40 sour breweries that are coming out for it. There are 39 sour breweries coming out for it, and then Schilling's coming out and pouring some lager. And it's.
Someone wants some Doritos.
Go sit down, boy. Here, take these. Sorry about
that. That's completely fine.
Oh gosh,
I always describe this podcast as being just shy of professional, which gives me wiggle room to allow anything to happen.
Hey, well, this is real life here. This is how it happens.
Yeah.
Oh man, good Lord, this anyway, so we're doing 40 breweries. Everybody's representing a charity from their home market or one that they care about, deeply. And we're giving away combined, we're going to give away about $17,500 to the charities based off of different superlatives that people will vote on, that kind of go along with the Friends with Benefits theme. Half of the event is happening online. We pre-sold boxes for that, and we're shipping all those out next week to people, so they'll have them by the 22nd of May. And then the other half is happening here in person. So we have, if you got the VIP box that we're sending out, there's 22 of the 40 breweries are going to be in that. And then if you come on site, we had all the breweries send different beers than what was in the box. So that way, people weren't coming.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Re-drinking what they had in the box. So, if they got the box, then they'll be able to try unique beers from everybody from the box, and they'll come in and try different stuff during the festival.
And just like your FML festival, I wanted to do this, but I live in Maryland where we're not allowed to have fun.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't able to participate because we're not. If people were able to ship beer to us, who knows what kind of bad things would happen?
I know, right? Honestly, you know what it is, and I'm surprised Virginia does it because they're just as bad. But it's a wholesaler thing, man, and the distributors control.
They have a lot of power in this state.
They do here too, and it's almost sickening how much power they have here. And you sign with a distributor here, it's for life. You can't ever get out of it, and unless they release you and agree to release you, which most don't. And so, when you go on and you look online at all the, different people that they've donated money to, it's literally like right down the aisle, man. They're on both sides, hitting both campaigns with money. So that way they're, they don't lose that.
We had a big, it was 2-3 years ago, like a big attempt to reform a lot of those laws.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, and it was kind of crazy for me because during that time period, when I started this, I never thought I would have anything to do with politics. Yeah. But that year, I had the comptroller on a couple times. I had people running for governor come on to talk about how they would approach it. I had a senator on, and like all this because it became such a political issue. Yeah. But I just remember, like, to your donations thing, during the testimony for that, all that legislation, there was a guy who was part of some nonprofit that had to do with like transparency in donations to public officials. And he started listing like where the donations came from. Man, they flipped out on him.
Yeah.
And like,
you can look at online. I looked at one of our distributors locally that we just don't see eye to eye. And, they, if you look it up, I've looked it up myself just to see, where it's going. And they're literally paying the same amount of money on both campaigns every single time. And it's almost sickening to know that that's how government works, because that's not how it's supposed to work. It should be looking out for people. And, we have a lot of really great distributors that we work with.
So I was just about to say, like, this is a good, I mean, we're going to come back. I still want to talk about Friends with Benefits a little bit, but this is a great time to point out that you are now available in Maryland. And selfishly, all I care about is you're available specifically in Frederick, Maryland at District East. And in Maryland, we definitely have some really, really good distributors, and you signed with one of the great ones, Other Side Beverage. Yeah. So Matt has been a guest on the podcast before to talk about how like they kind of have a different approach. I told him he was basically just running a fantasy football team in the beer world with his lineup of breweries that he was assembling
and winning every year, man. That's what attracted us to him is, it's all about, so much of this game is association and, finding people that are like-minded, and then, you stick with those people. And, so for some people it's, they, do their same core beers over and over again. And then other folks do like we do. And, we just hit our 500th beer in 4 years. And so it's for us, our biggest thing for distributors has been, people that understand exclusivity, and then people that that are associated with brands that really kind of live out the same type of just approach that we do at this whole thing. So
yeah, and then know what stores to give the beer to, because everyone's going to want it, but know which stores can actually, if you have a beer that needs to be handled specifically, know how to handle it and know how to sell it. So that's so I'm excited that now, because as I told you earlier, I've never had an Oozlefinch beer. I've been a fan of you purely just off of your branding. I love the name, I love the artwork, and everything to do with Oozlefinch. I just haven't had the chance to try one of your beers yet. So I'm excited for that now.
Heck yeah, man. We're honestly, I was telling you this before we came on, but you're coming in at a good time, man. We just hooked up the pasteurizer, so we don't have to fully attenuate our beers anymore, which means more flavor, more sugar, and really kind of really getting the intended flavor that we were going for at the beginning. Nothing's more frustrating than making a beer that tastes freaking awesome when you do your additions, and then taking a sip a week later and it just doesn't taste like it did like you intended it to a week prior. So now we have that capability, and I think not only that, we were also talking about cans exploding, which we've had issues with as well. So now you'll know that it's getting past you as it was intended to be drank, and it will not explode. So those are the two great pieces from that.
So a question I've asked several other people, and is a big concern I have. So when everything can open back up and you're able to have people into your tap room again, will you still be able to distribute beer? And I'm just going to say selfishly, to District East and Frederick, Maryland, or are you going to end up having to pull stuff back out of distribution to feed your tap room?
I think it's probably going to be, I would say, a little less than what we're doing now to distro, but the good thing is with us is we're very committed to our distributors that are good to us, and so it's I think you'll be able to get it. It may not be as often, but we kind of like it that way. Is
an occasional treat.
Yeah, we like distributors that'll come and pick up once every 2 or 3 months instead of once every 2 weeks. And our whole goal is to not saturate any market we're in, and unfortunately, a lot of distributors' goals are the opposite. And so we've carefully placed ourselves with distributors like Other Side and all these. We have a bunch of them throughout the country. We're in like 18 different states, but they understand what we're trying to do, and they understand exclusivity. They understand the beer community and where we're going with our brand. And so
and that it's okay to only take a case or two to a single place. And
yeah, exactly. And for us, doing that type of business is one way to really grow slow and not overgrow too fast, which I've seen a lot of breweries do. And then
hey Russ, there's a Joe Griffith up here, and he was saying that at any time he'd like to say hi.
Sorry, I'm in an interview. Oh gosh, sorry.
I said, just shy of professional.
I forgot it was on. I should have unplugged it. I'm going to unplug it now.
Because that's a concern I've had, and not a huge concern, but like I think a lot of people have gotten used to over the last year getting access to beers that you never had before, because a lot of breweries are putting so much more into cans that it started to become more readily available in stores, that I just wonder, like, how much is that going to go away over the course of the next year or so as tap rooms open back up?
I think it depends on the brand, honestly. And it depends on how they were running the show beforehand. And You know, and it depends how they're received by folks. I think you're going to see a lot of brands in stores that you and you're going to continue to see them that you didn't see before because they weren't really in that game. A lot of folks depended on taproom sales for you know, kind of just keeping things alive even before the pandemic. But now I think going through the pandemic and seeing the amount of money that can be made through distro as well is just another revenue stream that folks are going to try and keep a hold of. And I think you're more sought after exclusive brands. I think you're exactly right. You're probably not going to have them as readily available, which to me I think is a good thing. I know to consumers it's not a good thing, but for us, that's right where we want to be. You know, we want people to be excited. We want people to, you know, I don't want folks to be able to go to the store and find their beer anytime they want to, or find our beer anytime they want to. So, you know, if that's the case, then I think folks aren't buying enough of it, and we need to kind of relook at the way we're doing things. But for me, I mean, I think you're probably right, but the one thing I will tell you, it also depends on your distributor and how they treat the brands, because more exclusive breweries understand and respect distributors that respect what they're doing. And
yeah,
you know, we're far more likely to send pallets to those distributors than we are to folks that don't get it. And so I think it would really depend on where you live and depend on the brand, honestly.
and I know a lot of breweries during this time took this time as opportunities to do expansions and a lot of breweries purchased canning lines over the past year way sooner than they had planned to originally. So I guess in some ways that convenience is going to continue, because now there were fewer places that are relying on mobile canning to put products out.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, there's a bunch of things in, you know, for us specifically, you can equate, we were canning beforehand. We weren't, we have grown our distro during the whole pandemic, but we've also looked into different revenue streams that we didn't have before. You know, we never had we didn't worry about online stores. I didn't have a license to sell direct to consumer in 10 different states, which we have now. So, you know, people from 10 or actually 11 different states can go online and purchase beer straight from our website, and we can send it to them up to a certain amount. And so that wasn't something we were watching before. So
is that a big business? Do a lot of people do that?
Honestly, not. It did it during COVID all the time. We were slammed. But I think now as the pandemic is calming down, especially here in Virginia, people are starting to go outdoors. I mean, our tap room has been absolutely, we still have the limitations in the tap room, but we have a massive yard space that sits on the water out here. And so, you know, our front lawn has been filled, you know, every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So folks have been really good to us and really supportive since we've been able to kind of open that piece back up. But I would say it I don't know. It really depends. It depends on the situation. You know,
I would just think like the shipping becomes so expensive that it adds a friction to the purchase that
100%. I mean, you're talking $20-something of shipping, average probably if you're buying 24 beers. So which if you're buying all 24 doesn't seem all that bad, but if you're only buying 12 and you're adding another $20 on there, it doesn't
then it feels a little more painful.
Yeah, and especially, you know, beer with folks like us who are using a crud ton of ingredients, and you have to, you know, in order to make money off the product, you have to have a little higher price point than most other people do. It's you know, folks aren't willing to spend all the time unless they really know what they're getting. You know, we have some folks that will order like crazy, and then we have most folks are just coming out to the brewery, honestly.
Yeah, I would think like that caters to like a hardcore fan who can't get to you directly, but someone just looking to try it adds a friction point that may not necessarily want to.
Yeah, No, 100%.
So the virtual festival is, or were you done with that thought though? Sorry, I cut you off.
I was actually following into probably what you're about to ask me.
Okay. So the virtual festival you can't get tickets for anymore because you obviously had to be able to put together the sets. But you can still purchase for the in-person part of the festival. Will those be available until they sell out, or is there a cutoff for when those will no longer be available?
So, I mean, honestly, we'll be selling them on site the day of.
Okay.
You know, we're going to have to cut it at a certain amount of people. And, you know, I think I know what that number is. I'm not real comfortable putting it out yet because I need to research it a little bit more. But we...
they don't make anything easy to figure out how to stay within restrictions. And it seems to be getting worse instead of easier.
Well, and for us, I think for me, it's less of what their restrictions are and more of like a personal...
what will make you feel comfortable with.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't want anybody coming here and, you know, getting sick or spreading anything like that. You know, we had times of maybe just selling tickets only to people with shot records. And, you know, obviously we didn't do that. I don't think it'd be really fair for folks that don't have access to it. And so, you know, it was one of those things of like, you know, how much responsibility do we want to take? And just ethically, you know, like what is ethical in this situation, and what makes us comfortable ethically, and so we've got a number in mind that I think we're comfortable with. Like I said, everything's going to be outdoors. We'll have the biggest tent we could find. We rented, so we'll have. You know, if something happens, we'll still have the massive tent, or if rain happens, we'll have a massive tent for folks to kind of get under and stay dry. But you know, it's just figuring out what the right thing to do is, and then going from there. But yeah, so we're planning on selling at the gate, but again, if it sells out beforehand and we hit that number, we're definitely going to close sales. So. Yeah, and I don't know if you've seen the breweries that we've updated recently.
I mean, I'm looking at. I don't know which ones you added recently, but I am looking at the list, and it's an all-star cast.
Oh yeah, man, we are so stoked. So, let me see the most recent list. We've got Three Sons, 450 North, Almanac, Alvarado Street, American Solera, Aslan, Bearded Iris. Benchtop, who's local. We love what those guys are doing. They're coming out. Barrel Culture, Big Ugly is another one that's local. Really good folks. They're doing great stuff. They're coming out too. Beechwood, Black Project, Casa Agria, Crooked Stave, Deciduous, Grim, Heavy Reel, Hidden Springs, Hoof Hearted.
Real quick, Heavy Reel. Jeff from Heavy Reel was such a great guy, who was nice enough to introduce me to you. I drove up. Well, he was doing a collaboration with Fourscore up in Pennsylvania, and I stopped in at Fourscore, and I ended up chatting with him for like 2 hours. And then I was like, "Hey, you want to come on a podcast?"
I haven't officially met him yet, but he is so cool, and you know, we've been going back and forth since, you know, day one of this fest almost. And he's been texting me back and forth, and they're coming out for it. And
great beer. He makes some great beer there.
Yeah, I can't wait to meet the dude. I think he's awesome. Honestly, there's folks on the list that I haven't met before. You know, we've got let's see.
You stopped at I interrupted you at Who Farted.
Who Farted. Yeah, so those guys are killer too. Imprints coming, Ingenious, Magnify, Mass Landing, McKellar, Oozlefinch. Obviously, we're here. Perennial, Pretentious.
That would be really poor planning if you.
Oh, right. Way bad. Perennial, Pretentious, out of Tennessee, Shilling, The Answer, The Drowned Lands, Tripping, Animals, Urban South, Vitamin C, Weathered Souls, Weldworks, Wiley Roots, and Yeast of Eden. But honestly, you know, there's a couple of these names on here, like I was saying, that we haven't met before, and so, you know, we're tight with quite a few of them. But there's other ones that we haven't met. I've been really surprised with some of the folks, man. You know, I think but literally, I think trying to figure out who all I've been talking to. That's just funny. The Wiley Roots guys are hilarious. Weldworks, we kind of knew a little bit beforehand, and we just did a collab with them. Really good dudes. We're excited. Vitamin C has been really cool. We haven't met them yet. They're coming down for the fest.
I'm excited. I've never had any of their beer, but a friend of mine just came back from a New England trip and gave me a couple cans of Vitamin C beer to try out.
Yeah, I'm excited to meet them. I've had their beer before. I just had never met the folks behind it, and so they're coming down. We're stoked for that. Deciduous is coming down, and I've had his stuff. It's amazing. They're going to come down and do a collab with us that week as well. Imprint is folks we haven't known yet, and he's been a lot of these people we've never met before that are just absolutely killer people, and you can tell that they're our type of people just via text getting ready for this thing, and so. I'm really excited because we've got friends like Ingenious, Almanac, Schilling. Those guys we know really well, and they're coming down. And then we've got other folks that we've never, like I said, we haven't met, and that are coming in for it. And I just think it's going to be a really, really good time, at least on our side and everybody else's. If you're into sours.
How did you go about assembling this list of breweries?
Yeah, I mean, it's basically like, well, I better be careful. No, I mean, there are breweries that I reached out to that couldn't commit to it. But for the most part, there are breweries that I've had and that I really respect in the game, and so. There were a few that reached out to us, and a few that were on my list to contact last week and get these last minute details lined up. And a few of those folks had reached out, and then we added a few more others in the last week that were kind of on my list. But honestly, I respect them highly. I respect what they're doing. I've had their beer, and I just believe that they are just they're like-minded like we are. And I think you hear that a lot in the beer community is like-minded folks, like-minded. And it's true though. They think who we are as a brewery and who we are as a business. We really resonate with what these breweries are doing. And so that's how I put the list together. But, a lot of it, there are a lot of hype boys on the list, and I think for me, it's exciting because I fanboy over certain breweries just as much as I does. So it's cool to be part of one of the smaller pieces of the puzzle, and get to hang out and try some of the beers from folks that you really have that I've respected for years in this thing. So,
do you plan on making this a yearly festival?
100%. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, 100%. I don't know how. I'm not too sure about the digital side of things right now, and how we're going to approach that later. I think just the logistics. When we did FML, it was absolutely. I mean, the name is perfect for how I felt the entire time.
Yeah.
And then we thought, well, we have it nailed down. Let's do it again this year for this one, and it's hell, man. The logistics have been hell. And so I don't know really where the digital piece is going to go.
I feel like we may be one more year of needing to do stuff like that.
I agree. And
just from like mass population comfort level of
100%. Yeah, I'm with you. But I think the way we're going to do it more like the way we ran the last two are we really didn't have a limit on what we were selling. We just said buy. And we ordered as much beer as we needed. And but I think moving forward for us, it's 100% going to be we're going to have 200 boxes, and that's all we're doing.
Yeah.
And if you get it, you get it. If you don't, sorry. And so rather than doing just 200 VIP boxes or whatever it was, I think we had 280 that we did. It'll probably just be 280 boxes, and we're done.
And that's you guys assembling and shipping everything, right?
Yeah. Yep. So, I mean, we have a shipping partner in New York for this one, which,
Okay.
so, you know, they're doing states that we can't legally go into. And which I don't know how that works. We've applied to every state that a brewery can physically ship to. So, but they're a different entity. So there's different licensing for everybody. But we ship to 11 different states that breweries are allowed to ship to. And so we take care of those 11 states. And then there's another like 20 something states that they take care of. And so they're shipping there. But, you know, we basically took FML, which was 10 states, only us shipping the boxes. And then we multiplied that times 2, and we're taking care of, like, you know, 2 separate houses, and you know, the guys at Halftime Beverage are awesome, and you know, they've been amazing. But just trying to coordinate with breweries sending, a lot of folks didn't understand how it was happening, and so, you know, sending a festival pallet, you know, splitting the beer in half and sending half to New York and half to Virginia is still a complicated process. So
will the box be like the FML festival where it kind of forms a little Instagram photo
nah, man,
box thing? Or
yeah, as much as I would have loved to have done that again, that thing was expensive. And so
I bet, like, seeing pictures of it, that was the first thing I thought of.
dude, it was awesome, but it's you know, I paid like $24 a pop for those things. And so you're talking, you know, when I think we had 1,200 boxes that sold. So it was just a lot of money, and it was cool. We knew it was the first time anybody was doing anything like that. We wanted to really just set the bar high and make it so unforgettable that, you know, moving forward, and, you know, following FML fest, that it's something that people will remember from 2020 as being one of the few good things that happened. And so that was kind of the goal, was to give everybody that bought in, you know, just a day or two of just awesome, and then, you know, so they could suck up the other 363 or whatever it is.
Unfortunately, like, what is going to will most likely prevent me from being able to go to the festival is a sour beer that is probably like right up your alley too. I have a beer release that's probably going to be that weekend.
Oh no!
That with a brewery in Baltimore named Full Tilt.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's going to be made. What is made? No, wait, it's brewed. It hasn't had it added yet. It'll have. This is the second version of it. The first version was a pineapple mango tart, and it had cinnamon and vanilla. This one's made from pineapple and mango candy.
Awesome. Well, dude, tell them to hit me up, and we'll bring them down for the fest, and you can release it here.
I will pitch that to them.
Tell them you got my number, man. Hit me up. We'll add them to the list. I just got to do it this week. Otherwise, I mean, I've heard of them. I've never had their stuff, but I've heard they're doing great things. So.
It's really good. I love those guys. And I love what they're doing out there, which is why when they pitched me the idea of making a version of their Dan's Jams called Sans Jams with me on it, I was like, yeah, why would I say no to that?
Yeah, dude, that's killer. Yeah.
But I think it's going to, they haven't locked down the release date of it yet. It may be that weekend. And I'm like, can you please just make it some other time?
Well, tell them if it'll bring you out here, we can release it here for them. Yeah, man. I mean, honestly, I'm still waiting on a few breweries that may still be coming in. So we might add a few more to the list. We'll probably stop at 40. I think we've got 36 right now or something like that. So, you know, we've got a few more spaces, and some other folks that I may reach out to tomorrow. What's today? Tuesday? Yeah, tomorrow, if we haven't heard anything from some of the ones that are pending. But yeah,
although,
man.
I mean, I don't know who you're waiting to hear from, but the list that's already there is attractive enough that I don't know that anyone needs more to want to go.
That was the goal. That was the goal, dude. You know, honestly, you know, we've been talking about it here. I'd drive. My goal was to put together a festival that I would drive 6 hours for, and and really just, knock it out of the park. And so we don't spend a lot of money on bands and stuff here. I'm kind of a cheapskate when it comes to everything except for ingredients. And so,
see, like, I personally don't care about that at all.
yeah.
And I love music too, though. But I don't care even a little bit about music at beer festivals. And I've always wondered, am I in the minority of that, or is that a draw to beer festivals?
It's not for me, but my marketing folks, they were convinced like we need to spend money on a good band, and they hit a deal with a really good band out of Richmond that is kind of up and coming in the scene. And they're called Illiterate Light, which I hadn't heard of them, but I listen to their music, and honestly, like, I kind of dig it. And
my 11-year-old's in a band. If you need,
heck yeah, I'm down.
it's a band of it's like 4 11 to 14-year-old girls. if you need a cover band,
let's do it. Oh man, but yeah, so we spent money on some stuff on this one just to make it, if we're going to bring in the best breweries in the country, or a good portion of the best sour breweries in the country, then we need to be ready to just do everything right. And so that's what we're doing now, in the middle of planning everything. But we've got some really fun, sick stuff planned that the hardest part, I think, now is, like, we killed FML online. And so we've never really done a fest here by ourselves. And so it's always been attending other fests or stuff like that. But, trying to figure out how to tie the physical fest to the digital fest at the same time is going to be
and make it worthwhile for both people.
Yeah. So we've got stuff planned on the digital side, and some of it's going to be pre-recorded. We did a collab piece with one of the judges from Forged in Fire, and we went out and made knives with him for a week.
I saw the post. That I didn't I don't know how I missed that. Yeah. That was with a judge from Ford. I saw that post, and I loved it because I'm obsessed with Forged in Fire. I only learned about its existence a month or so ago, so now I'm just binging and thankfully there's 180 episodes.
Yeah. So, oh, dude, we've been through them all. My son Trayton over here is obsessed, and
I watched them with my 5-year-old too.
Well, we literally half talked me into it, half I talked myself into it. My wife would say that it's more for me, but the reason we met the judge, Jason, who did the thing with us, was I was setting up a forge in our garage, so we're going to start making knives in the garage out here. And so I just needed an anvil, and I put a post on Facebook, and one of my buddies from college was like, I just did a video for this guy, and introduced us, man, and we just hit it off with him. We took the whole team out there, and everybody made knives together, and we shot an episode kind of like it was like we were
that's awesome
together. And so it was a really fun time. And so that'll be part of the online fest. We've got 2 of the folks that work here that are single, and so we're gonna kind of auction them off on like a dating show type reality show thing. And so we'll start that pre-taped, and then we'll do the live at the end. And then we've got another live / digital event that we're going to do on site the day of, and we're going to do some type of tattoo roulette with a bunch of the breweries. And we're still working out the details on what exactly is going to get tattooed, but I mean,
Oozlefinch.
Yeah, well, honestly, I think that would be awesome, but we want it to be something that is a surprise to everybody, including
people.
And so I'm gonna be in it. I have one tattoo, and so I'm a little scared as to like if I end up being the last in and I have to get tattooed, I'm probably gonna cry, but but no, man, it's we're out to just have a ton of fun, and any way that we can tie those 2 pieces together. And we'll be doing some sour educational spots with some of the breweries that are coming in, and picking brains and just enjoying good beer together. So
do you have the book American Sour Beers?
I do, of course. Yeah.
I assume. I just glanced over. I have it sitting out because I took a photo recently with it. Mike has been a guest on
awesome.
the podcast previously.
Yeah, of course I do.
I mean, I assume like I don't know why I even asked. Like I think pretty much every any brewery I've gone to, like if they have a collection of books where you can see them, they have that book sitting there.
100%. I think we have a couple of them actually, because we have. Let's see. Hang on.
There it is. But is yours autographed with a note in it?
You know, I can't say that. No, it's it is. It's well used, but it's not autographed.
Mine is barely had the spine broken on it.
Oh yeah. I have to admit that it's probably more well used by my brew team than it was by me. So, yeah, man.
They did a collaboration with Bissell Brothers that had excerpts from both of their books on the can art. So I had to get the books out to photograph that beer.
That's awesome. Hell yeah. What
there's the so they're still my photo studio's in my recording studio, so I had to they're still sitting right next to me.
That's killer.
I have not read either of them yet.
Well, I haven't read the new IPA. I'll tell you that.
I have a lot of aspirations for reading books. I have a whole bunch of books to read. I just don't get around to doing it.
I have the same aspiration. Like, honestly, this is my computer bag, and this book, which I haven't even started, has been in there.
What is that?
The Hype Handbook.
What's that about? I feel like
it's a marketing book that
I love. Like that's one of, if I could go back in time, I think that's the path I would have gone into instead of IT, which is like my job. I have two jobs at the newspaper I work at. This, and then also I work in the IT department. But I love marketing and like content creation, and
that's awesome. I mean, honestly, this book is more kind of like psychologically what goes on from what I've read and heard. Excuse me. And so that's kind of where my head's more at, is like what psychologically makes people tick over.
Have you ever read Predictably Irrational?
No, I haven't.
Scrap that book. Read Predictably Irrational first.
I'm writing
it's an amazing book about like advertising and marketing, where it's all about how human beings think very irrationally, but in a very predictable way.
Okay.
So like one of the things I always remember in it is that they say, like, in a restaurant, your menu should be the most profitable item on your menu should be the second most expensive entree, because people will look at it. They may not want to buy the most expensive thing, but they will treat themselves to the second most expensive thing.
I honestly can't tell you how many times I've done that. Like,
see, you are.
Yeah, I'm that guy that goes to Outback and is like, "Oh, I can't afford the $28 steak.
Yeah,
do the 24."
And the $24 one is probably more profitable. And then another example is that if you're selling something, you should present three options: the one you want the person to buy, an inferior version of what you want the person to buy, and something that can't be compared. So in the process of comparing, that one gets thrown out automatically. And then when you're comparing the other two, you buy the one that is easily compared as being better. So that book is all about that kind of stuff.
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, that'll go on my list too.
I listened to that one. It's a great audio book. I didn't read it. I listened to it as an audio book, and the reader is really good. So if that's easier, I highly recommend it. As
I've never done audiobooks, but a lot of folks that I know have started doing them recently, and I think I should.
That's like I don't listen to them as often anymore because there's podcasts I listen to mainly, and people should listen to this instead of audiobooks.
Yeah.
But I would always, like, when cutting grass or doing housework or like those types of things, I would listen to audiobooks while doing that. People should not do that, and they should listen to this podcast.
100%. 100%. Oh man.
So I have one more question about Friends with Benefits.
Yes.
If someone buys a ticket to the in-person festival, do they get access to any of the digital content, or is that only for people who bought the digital tickets?
Yeah. So honestly, we just decided recently we're actually going to open the digital content up completely.
Okay.
So for FML, we locked it down, which I think was probably not the right move to make. I mean, we didn't have any reason to lock it down. We didn't have any reason to, but it was a decision that was made back then with the group that I was working with on it, but looking back, we probably should have just left it open. It was there was a lot of good stuff that came on there. We ended up posting everything on our YouTube channel after that. And it'll probably be the same for this. So even if you come to the in-person fest and you miss out on some of the other things, everything will be on YouTube afterwards. Cool. But if you are sitting at home, and you don't have a box, you can 100% log in and watch everything that we do, all the crazy antics, join in for the fun here that we're having outside, as well as some of the more serious things that are happening inside. So
the glassware looks awesome.
Dude, yeah. Love it. The type of glasses we were really specific about. Oh, here they are. So I have the two. This is the VIP glass, I guess you could.
Nice. I mean, take a look at my Instagram feed, and you will see how obsessed I am with glassware.
A lot of good ones, and I'll get your address. You need to text me your address, and I'll send you a few to include the one that you missed out on.
That's a cool one.
Yeah. So this is the taster glass, which we went back and forth on whether or not we were actually going to use, because we're not sure, like how everything's going to go over with COVID, and want people using the same glass going up to the tap. So we're going to give everybody a glass as they come in, but we're not going to utilize them. We'll have little tasters sitting there, and people will use disposable tasters every time they come up, but they still get the cool glass to take home with them, which is honestly probably the biggest fest glass I've ever seen, but it's a great whiskey glass too. So that's what I have used it for so far.
It does look like it would be a perfect little snifter type.
It's great, man.
So where do people go to get tickets?
They can go on the website, which is fwbsourfest.com. And it will link them over to the ticket site that we're using for buying the tickets. Everything's doing digital. We were not selling physical tickets, so everything will be scanned as people come in, and we're going to go that route with it.
I've always thought that crazy OCD thing I have. I work in, and maybe it's because I work in technology. Like, I have a degree in electronic engineering. I work in IT, and it's only recently I would actually trust them, but anything I ever went to, you'd always buy online or through the app, and then always print it out because it's not going to work if I.
Yeah. I do the same thing with plane tickets and everything.
Yeah.
I literally just in the last year, probably the last year before COVID, started using my phone for flights. Yeah, I'm the same way. And even my wife, she's real good about opening her phone and taking notes in her phone on her notepad in her phone. And I literally keep a notebook with me at all times, and I've got stickies everywhere all over my desk. And, but yeah, I don't know what it is, but I've got to write it out. That's just how I am. Old school, I guess. I don't know. That's funny that's considered old school, but
yeah, us old guys. So there's 2 tickets. There's general admission. General admission gets you in at what time? Because that is the difference. It's you get in earlier with VIP. Now, look on the website, you can get the details. But that includes the awesome tasting glass. Also can be used for whiskey, and 2-ounce pours, unlimited 2-ounce pours of all the amazing breweries. That's $60 plus fees and tax. And then the VIP experience, which I think is awesome, because to me, it's always like beer festivals were always the place where I wanted to go and meet people that were involved with the beer. So the VIP experience even goes further than that, where you have brunch with the breweries with a question. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so we're planning a big brunch here with a local restaurant downtown here in Phoebus, and they I mean, some of the best food. It's the place where I take people when they come in and say, what's the best restaurant locally? I take them there, and they're just really, really good folks. They were on Shark Tank and kind of blew up after that and opened a restaurant and all kinds of stuff. And so
that's another show I love. Basically, Mark Cuban is one of the. It's crazy. Like yesterday, I recorded an episode with Zane Lamprey, who worked for Mark Cuban on Mark Cuban's TV channel HDNet, and that was one of the things I talked to him about, because Mark Cuban is one of the 3 celebrities that I care about at all. Like, if given the opportunity, I would want to meet him. And I almost want, I want to invent something almost just to go on Shark Tank, and I would be completely fine if he just told me how stupid I was.
Meet him, give him a high five.
Yeah.
I'm a big Cubs fan, so I would just anybody Cubs, but Jake Arrieta is one that I want to meet right now. So if you know Jake Arrieta, send him down.
I do not. Sorry.
Yeah, so the VIP experience, man, is going to be killer. We've got the restaurant that's coming in to cater it, and honestly, we didn't overcharge for the VIP experience. It was one of those things that we were.
I've seen VIP experiences just as expensive that did not offer as much.
Yeah, honestly, our goal was to just pay for the food, so we're not coming out of pocket, and then offer people a good time, and so we're gonna, they'll have indoor restroom access, which is a big deal sometimes.
There is worth it.
Yeah. You'll get the early.
I don't know why you don't have that listed on one of the benefits.
I should put it on there. I should.
You 100% should put that on the list.
Everybody else has to use porta potties, so the porta potties will be outside for everyone. The VIPs will get. Honestly, the brewery's getting shut down for VIP use only, and so we'll have people there letting the VIP folks in and out to go tasting outside, and then also we'll have special VIP only beers inside to include a bunch of ours that folks will have access to that are limited, and they'll be doing the dinner inside. A majority of the educational pieces for the online piece will be inside, so VIP folks will be able to have access to those people and ask questions, and
that's cool.
Yeah, and meet the brewers, and so it'll be a great time. And like I said, we could have priced it up a bit more, but for us it was, let's just pay for our costs and give folks a good time, and work with our original margins from the outside fest. And so that's kind of what we did.
And on that same website, I think you have a list of all that stuff, right? Of what the sessions will be.
Honestly, I don't think it's up there yet, because we're finalizing. There's still things that we're finalizing, and I think we're going to finalize everything tomorrow.
Cool.
And the schedule should be going up in the next week or two, probably. But yeah, it's we've got the guys. I don't know if you've ever had Pretentious beer out of Knoxville. I'm from East Tennessee, and so Pretentious is a glass company that's out there. They also opened up a brewery, so they have Pretentious Craft Co., which is Pretentious Glass, and Pretentious Beer Co.
I'm familiar with Pretentious Glass. I didn't realize that they were one and the same.
Yeah. So they're literally next door to each other, and so you go into Knoxville, and they're in one of the coolest spots in Knoxville. And,
it's fine. I just recorded an episode where he was brought up too.
Oh, really?
Was it
good?
Well, I had Huffy on.
Okay,
Ryan Hoffman from Huffy Glass.
Yeah, Huffy Glass.
And he mentioned him.
Yeah, do you in a good way, hopefully.
yeah, absolutely.
No, Matt's awesome. He's such a cool dude. But he
was an example of one of the people who don't do lathe work, and he does all of his because another show. I don't watch that much TV, but I feel like I'm constantly talking about something I watch. Yeah. I love the show Blown Away.
I watched the last episode of season 2 last night, I think.
Yeah. So we were talking about the differences in glass blowing and how like people like Huffy and Frit, and they use lathes, and it's called hot work or cold work. I can't remember now. I forgot already. But he was like a 3 beer podcast, I think. And so it was Pretentious is different than the rest of them. He works with a furnace and blows everything. He doesn't use a lathe, and he uses a different process.
I mean, so we went out to have fun and make knives with Jason Knight, and that was a cool thing. But seeing his passion and his like, he was so just into the craft and teaching people how to keep it alive, and that was his thing. And I mean, it made such an impression on all of us. We're like, holy crap, this guy approaches knife making like we approach beer. And then we went to Pretentious, and not only do their beers taste and remind us of our own, which I'd never had their beer before. I've been out of East Tennessee for 15 years plus, but it was cool to go back home and meet someone there. And I originally reached out to him to be a part of Friends with Benefits because of the glass side of things. And then come in and do a collab with the brewery at the same time, This dude, I mean, one of the coolest groups of folks that we've ever met. They're absolutely chill. And the beer is phenomenal. And they're making them out of like repurposed. The fermenters are... Now it's professionally done, but they're repurposed 55-gallon barrels that are repurposed into fermenters.
Oh, wow.
Somebody makes them locally in Knoxville, and I'm like, it was absolutely blew my mind the way that everything was set up and how focused they are on just craftsmanship. And so, watching him do all that, and he started talking to me about Frit, which I knew about the glasses, but I didn't know about Frit and the hype behind that. And I started following Frit a couple weeks ago after I talked to Matt, and it really gave me a different mindset on the amount of effort and time and passion that go into all these different types of crafts. And so and it's exactly how we feel about our beer. And it's changed the way I do business with people who I'm not looking to go out and do business with a bunch of knockoff glass companies that are trying to knock off Pretentious or knock off Frit or knock off, Huffy or whatever. Which is something I'd never, ever even thought about before. I didn't think I'd care, but I'll show you something. Nobody's seen this yet, actually, but we just got back from there last week. Matt made this for us.
Oh, that is amazing. Anyone who, unfortunately, most people listen to this. But you gotta send me a picture of that I can post.
Okay.
Because it's the Oozlefinch done in glass, and it's amazing and functional.
Yeah, it is. See, you pour out of his little butt tail feather there. Dude, he made that in like 15 minutes, and we're standing there. He didn't even tell us he was making it. He just like, I'm gonna do something for you guys. And I mean, we were just watching him. We couldn't take our eyes off of him. It was so just, I can't explain it, man. I mean, it was amazing. And then he's working, and he made one wing, and I'm like, he's not going to try and make an Oozlefinch. And sure as crap, man, he did. And
that is so awesome.
Sent it home with us to have here. So that'll be a fun little thing that we'll all get to play with over the festival. So I'm saying we haven't used it yet. I think I'm going to save it for the fest, and they're coming in for the fest. And so we're going to have fun with that. So, but yeah, man, I honestly, their whole take on, and just craftsmanship and their own craft. And the amount of energy and passion that went into it, it literally psyched us up, man, because we feel like all those folks, he approaches beer like we approach beer too, which is awesome. But you just don't think of people that are doing, kind of the OG type way of doing things, and putting as much time and effort and passion and money into it as we do our craft. And so it's cool to see, and it's cool to experience something like that. But it blew my mind, man. I'm like, I want to make knives now. We're building the forge in the garage, so I'm like, I'm gonna make knives. Then I'm gonna get an oven, and I'm gonna blow glass. I mean, I
literally, while I was making my wife watching yet another episode of Forged in Fire, told her, I was like, honey, I'm either going to start blowing glass or making knives poorly. One of those things are going to happen. I have to do this now.
You want to see my knife we made?
Yeah. So there is a guy who was a runner-up on Forged in Fire, local to here, that at one time he gave classes where you would go and like do that type of thing and make a knife. But he also started a business making those grinders. And that business took off so much he had to like put on hold his bladesmithing, or I would definitely be going there to make a knife. But yes, I want to see your knife.
It was so hard to find the equipment because everybody wants to do it now. And so it took us forever to like get all the pieces. But this thing, check this out.
That is awesome. So you made that on your own, or at that when you went to the Jason's place?
Yeah, no, we made it this is the first knife I've ever made, and we made it with Jason. So
that's so cool.
I made this one, and my staff that was with me, there were 4 others with me from my staff, and they all made one as well. I mean, they all look really similar, a little bit different shaped, but I mean, to sit down with him and do this in 2 days, like, that was so cool. And
I love that you've taken your staff to go to the things that I love.
me for it. They hate me for it. Like,
they didn't want to do it?
No, they were like, this is your excuse to go out there and learn how to make a knife from one of the best. I'm like, yes.
I want to move down there and work for you now, and I will just support any of that.
The funniest thing is they all got there, and after day 1, everybody was like, this is one of the coolest things. And so, some of the staff since then have said the management team, we should do this every quarter, go do something else. And I'm like, yes, we should. That would be awesome.
I have a list of things I really want to do.
I want to learn how to blow glass now. Let's go do that next time. So, but yeah, man, we're having fun, and just trying to anything we can do to just not get burnt out and continue slaying and slinging good beers, I guess. So it's been a fun time.
What is the best way for people to keep up on Oozlefinch happenings?
Honestly, Instagram is kind of our thing. We put a lot of focus into Instagram. I hate to say that we don't on Facebook. We have a huge local following on Facebook, so anything going on locally, if you're local to the area, is kind of more Facebook focused. Instagram is more of a national focus on what's going on within Oozle. But we just started a YouTube channel back during FML, so we've got that, and we're planning a lot more with that as we go. And I think as far as keeping up is probably Instagram would be that's what, even when I'm trying to keep up with what's going on here, I'll go look at Instagram.
I know that I've abandoned, well, not completely, but I focus most of my time social media wise on Instagram. That's just where beer is.
Yeah. The funny thing is, though, when you put paid ads online, we get 0 results from Instagram, but we get a ton of results from Facebook still, which is weird. I mean, we don't get 0 results, but the results we get on Facebook far outnumber anything we get on Instagram.
I wonder why that is.
I don't know why it is either.
Maybe because it's more saturated on Instagram, or
I have no idea.
And they're probably still separate algorithms, and there's a lot of things about Instagram I don't understand.
Yeah, me either.
So basically, everyone should just go to Instagram and follow Oozlefinch Beers, because even from there, you have your link tree that tells everyone to go for everything you need to know.
Yeah, 100%. And you know, honestly, Instagram is normally the first thing.
And if you're not on Instagram, just get on Instagram and search for Uncapped Podcast and follow me also.
100%.
Thank you so much for your time. I know you are very busy, so I appreciate.
Of course.
And I also appreciate you signing with Other Side and shipping your beer up to Maryland's now. We
appreciate them too, man. I mean, we're absolutely stoked to be working with them, and just a great group of folks. So, yeah, man, keep a lookout, and I'm serious about that beer release. If you guys want to do it, let's make it happen.
All right, I will pitch that to them.
You got my cell, man. Text me and let me know, and we'll bring them in for it.
And thank you everyone for watching and listening. Cheers.
See you, bud.